The massive chamber stretched out like a silver ocean, filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Captain James Morrison stood perfectly still in the human section, watching as thousands of alien beings took their seats. For 300 years, humans had served these people. They had fought wars, protected trade ships, and died on distant worlds to keep peace between the stars. Something felt wrong today. The usual friendly chatter was gone. Instead, nervous whispers filled the air. Alien delegates who normally greeted human representatives with warm gestures now avoided looking at them entirely. Morrison felt his stomach tighten with worry. Speaker Veltar, a tall creature with 4 arms and skin like polished metal, called for order. His voice echoed through the chamber as it was translated into 1,000 languages. Morrison had heard that voice many times before, always speaking of cooperation and friendship between species. Today it sounded cold and distant. "We gather today to discuss a matter of great importance," Veltar announced. The giant holographic display above them flickered to life, showing human military bases scattered across the galaxy. Every patrol route, every defense station, every place where human soldiers stood guard was marked in bright red dots. Morrison counted them quickly, over 10,000 positions where humans protected alien worlds. Morrison's communication device buzzed softly. A message from his old friend Captain Sarah Collins on the Outer Rim. "James, something big is happening. All alien ships in our sector just went dark. No responses to our calls." He deleted the message quickly, but his hands were shaking now. Veltar continued speaking. "The Hegemony Trade Consortium has made us an offer that will change everything. They possess faster-than-light technology that can cross our galaxy in mere days instead of months. Ships that now take a year to travel between the core worlds and the Rim could make the journey in a single week." Murmurs of excitement rippled through the chamber. Morrison had heard rumors about this technology. If it was real, it would revolutionize galactic civilization. Trade, communication, and travel would be transformed overnight. "However," Veltar said, and the chamber fell silent, "this gift comes with one condition. The hegemony requires that humanity be removed from all council space immediately. They believe that humans have become too powerful, too unpredictable to be trusted with continued access to our territories." Morrison felt like he had been punched in the stomach. Around him, his fellow human delegates sat in stunned silence. After 3 centuries of service, after dying to protect worlds they had never even seen, this was their reward: betrayal. The debate that followed was brief and one-sided. Species after species stood to speak in favor of the proposal. The Centaurans, whose shipping lanes humans had protected from pirates for 50 years, voted yes without hesitation. The vegan colonies, whose rebellion humans had helped suppress, spoke of the need for new leadership in galactic affairs. Even the peaceful Taotians, whose first contact with humans had saved them from extinction, agreed that humanity had outlived its usefulness. Morrison watched in horror as his friends abandoned them. These were species that had called humans brothers, sisters, family. They had shared meals, celebrated holidays together, and mourned their dead side by side. Now they spoke as if humans were nothing more than hired guns who had outlived their contracts. The vote was swift and merciless. 847 species voted to expel humanity from council space. 3 abstained, probably out of fear rather than loyalty. Only humanity's own delegation voted against the measure, their voices lost in the overwhelming tide of betrayal. Speaker Veltar's words fell like hammer blows. "Effective immediately, all human vessels, installations and personnel are ordered to withdraw from council space within 72 standard hours. Any humans found in our territories after this deadline will be considered hostile invaders and treated accordingly." The chamber erupted in celebration. Aliens who had just voted to exile their protectors cheered and embraced each other as if they had won some great victory. Morrison saw representatives from dozens of worlds he had personally helped save, now dancing with joy at humanity's downfall. As the session ended, Morrison tried to catch the eye of Ambassador Krell from Rigel Prime. The old creature had once called Morrison's son, after human medics saved his life during a plague outbreak. Now Krell looked right through him as if he were invisible. Morrison activated his secure communicator with trembling fingers. Admiral Clark's face appeared on the small screen, her expression grim. She was aboard humanity's flagship, positioned at the edge of council space where she had been maintaining peace for the past decade. "Admiral," Morrison said quietly, his voice barely controlled, "you need to prepare for immediate evacuation of all human personnel. The council has voted us out. All of us. Everywhere." Clark's face went pale. "What's the time frame?" 72 hours. After that, we're considered enemy combatants." There was a long pause. Morrison could hear the bridge activity in the background as Clark processed this information. Finally, she spoke. James, are they seriously expecting us to abandon 10,000 installations and withdraw our entire fleet in 3 days? Yes, Admiral. And if we don't, they've authorized military action against us. Clark's expression hardened into something Morrison had never seen before, cold, calculating anger. Then they've just declared war on humanity. They'll learn what that really means. The transmission ended, leaving Morrison alone among the celebrating aliens who had just signed their own death warrants. Admiral Elizabeth Clark stood on the bridge of the HMS Retribution, watching her screen fill with emergency signals from across human space. Red warning lights flashed everywhere as reports flooded in from colonies, research stations, and trading posts scattered throughout the galaxy. The 72-hour deadline had passed exactly 3 minutes ago, and the attack had begun immediately. Admiral, called Lieutenant David Hayes from his station, his young face pale with shock. New Birmingham is under attack. They're reporting over 200 alien warships in orbit. The colony is requesting immediate evacuation assistance. Clark felt her heart sink. New Birmingham was a peaceful farming world, home to 15 million people who had never hurt anyone. Most of them were families who had moved there to grow food for the galaxy's hungry populations. Now alien fleets were bombarding them from space. What about the Henderson mining station? Clark asked, dreading the answer. No response, ma'am. Last transmission was a distress call about incoming ships. That was 20 minutes ago. Across human space the story was the same. Every human settlement, no matter how small or peaceful, was under coordinated attack. The aliens had planned this carefully, timing their assault to hit every human position at exactly the same moment. They wanted to wipe out humanity completely before anyone could organize a defense. But they had made one critical mistake. They had forgotten what humans were really like when their backs were against the wall. On the mining colony of Hadley's Hope, Administrator Thomas Reed received the surrender demand with grim satisfaction. Reed had been a soldier for 20 years before becoming a colonial administrator. When he saw the alien ships approaching, he didn't panic. Instead, he smiled. Attention all miners, Reed announced over the colony's communication system. This is not a drill. We have hostile contacts approaching. Remember your training. The aliens expected to find frightened civilians ready to give up without a fight. Instead, they encountered 3,000 miners who had spent months preparing for exactly this moment. Reed had quietly trained every colonist in basic combat, turning mining equipment into weapons and industrial explosives into defensive tools. The plasma cutters used to slice through asteroid rock worked just as well on alien armor. The mining charges designed to break up or deposits could destroy landing craft with devastating efficiency. The tunnel systems that honeycombed the colony became a maze of death for any alien soldier brave enough to enter. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the massive alien invasion force had been reduced to fewer than 300 survivors who fled in panic back to their ships. The miners had lost 400 people, but they had proven something important. Humans would not go quietly into the night. Similar scenes played out across human space. On Research Station Kepler-7, Dr. Margaret Wilson and her team of scientists faced an invasion force of 10,000 alien soldiers. The scientists had spent years studying alien biology, learning everything about the species that now attacked them. They used that knowledge to create biological agents that targeted specific alien weaknesses. Within hours, the invasion force was writhing in agony as tailored diseases attacked their nervous systems. Dr. Wilson watched from her laboratory as alien soldiers collapsed in the corridors outside, victims of their own biology turned against them. They thought knowledge was weakness, Wilson told her assistant as they sealed another batch of biological weapons. They're learning otherwise. On the trade station Omega Point, Captain Robert Sterling faced impossible odds. His small security force of 50 humans was surrounded by over 5,000 alien troops. The station's weapons were designed to defend against pirates, not military fleets. Any reasonable person would have surrendered immediately. Sterling was not reasonable. He was angry. All civilians to the escape pods, Sterling ordered. Security teams prepare for close quarters combat. We're going to show these bastards what happens when you betray your friends. Sterling's team used their knowledge of the station's layout to turn every corridor into a killing field. They vented atmosphere to suffocate alien boarders, used gravity generators to crush enemy soldiers, and turned the station's own systems into weapons. When ammunition ran low, they fought with tools, pipes, and their bare hands. The alien commander finally retreated after losing half his force to 50 determined humans. His report would later describe the battle as fighting against demons in human form. Admiral Clark watched the reports come in with growing amazement. Every human position was outnumbered by at least 10 to 1. Most faced odds of 100 to 1 or worse. Yet somehow, impossibly, humans were winning more battles than they lost. "Admiral," Lieutenant Hayes called out, excitement replacing the fear in his voice. "I'm getting reports from across our territory. The aliens are taking massive casualties. Some of their fleets are actually retreating." Clark nodded grimly. The aliens had expected to fight the humans they thought they knew, the disciplined peacekeepers who followed rules and protected the innocent. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous. "Send a message to all human forces," Clark ordered. "Tell them the gloves are off. We're not peacekeepers anymore. We're at war." The galaxy had wanted to see what happened when humanity was pushed to the edge of extinction. They were about to find out that evolution had created humans to be the most dangerous predators in the universe. They just hadn't needed to show it until now. The hunt had begun, but the aliens were discovering they weren't the hunters. They were the prey. The Council War Room buzzed with nervous energy as military leaders from across the galaxy studied the latest casualty reports. What should have been a quick victory was turning into a nightmare that grew worse each day. The holographic displays showed numbers that seemed impossible. Alien fleets with 10,000 ships were being destroyed by human forces numbering in the hundreds. General Crix of the Centauran fleet slammed his four fists on the table in frustration. "This makes no sense. We have more ships, more weapons, more soldiers than they could ever hope to match. How are we losing?" The answer came from Admiral Thane of the Vegan Navy, his voice quiet and filled with growing fear. "Because we never really knew what humans were capable of. We saw them as our peacekeepers, following our rules, protecting our interests. We never saw them as warriors fighting for their own survival." The reports painted a picture that chilled every alien commander. On the industrial world of New Manchester, a human force of 8,000 had faced an invasion army of 200,000 aliens. The battle should have lasted minutes. Instead, it raged for 6 days. The humans used the planet's factory systems to manufacture weapons in real time, turning out missiles and explosives faster than the aliens could destroy them. When the alien army finally retreated, they left behind the wreckage of 300,000 soldiers. The humans had lost half their people, but they had proven something terrifying: they could turn any world into a fortress given enough time. But the real shock came from the Battle of Wolf 359. Admiral Elizabeth Clark had chosen this system for humanity's most important military academy, where young humans learned the art of war. When the Council decided to destroy it, they sent their most powerful fleet, 800 of their finest warships carrying the galaxy's best soldiers. The alien commanders expected to find students and teachers who would surrender quickly when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, they found Admiral Clark herself, along with every instructor and senior student who had chosen to make their final stand at the place where human military tradition was born. Clark had spent weeks turning the entire star system into a weapon. The asteroid belt became a maze of hidden missile batteries. Abandoned mining stations were converted into fortress positions. Even the Academy's training ships were loaded with explosives and programmed to ram enemy vessels. Captain William Turner, one of Clark's former students, commanded the defense of the main Academy station. His force consisted of 300 instructors and 2,000 students, most of whom had never seen real combat. They faced 15,000 elite alien Marines in what should have been a hopeless battle. Turner's strategy was simple and brutal. He divided the massive station into sections, then began destroying those sections one by one as the aliens advanced through them. Each corridor became a death trap. Each room contained hidden explosives. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that would rather destroy their own home than let it fall into enemy hands. "They want our academy?" Turner told his students as they prepared their final defense. "Then they can have it. One burning piece at a time." The battle lasted 36 hours. When it ended, the alien force had been completely destroyed, but so had the academy. Turner and his brave defenders had fought to the last person, taking thousands of enemies with them. The alien fleet limped away with only 43 ships remaining from the 800 that had attacked. The reports from Wolf 359 sent shockwaves through the Council. These weren't hardened soldiers they were fighting. They were teachers and students who had chosen death over surrender. If humanity's educators could inflict such devastating casualties, what would happen when the real military forces struck back? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Admiral Clark's main fleet emerged from the dark nebula where they had been hiding, and the galaxy learned what human military doctrine really meant when survival was at stake. The fleet wasn't trying to capture territory or win political victories. They were hunting for revenge. Captain Robert Sterling led the first major counterattack against the Rigel Prime system, home to the species that had been among the first to vote for humanity's expulsion. Sterling's force of 50 ships faced a defensive fleet of 400 vessels protecting one of the galaxy's most important trade centers. The battle was over in 3 hours. Sterling used tactics that no alien commander had ever seen. His ships worked together like a pack of wolves, focusing all their firepower on single targets before moving to the next. They ignored the alien battle formations and attacked in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully planned to create maximum confusion. When the smoke cleared, the Rigel defense fleet was completely destroyed. Sterling's ships had taken heavy damage, but they had proven that human military thinking was unlike anything the galaxy had faced before. They didn't fight to win territory, they fought to destroy their enemies completely. But the real message came with what Sterling did next. Instead of occupying Rigel Prime, he simply left. No invasion, no demands for surrender, no attempt to claim the rich trading world. He just broadcast a simple message: this is what betrayal costs. Remember it. The psychological impact was devastating. Every alien world now lived in terror, wondering if human ships would appear in their skies without warning. The species that had voted to destroy humanity now understood they had awakened something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The price of arrogance was being paid in blood, and the bill was growing larger every day. 2 years had passed since the galaxy had betrayed humanity, and the impossible was happening. Despite being outnumbered by thousands to one, human forces were not just surviving, they were winning. The great trade routes that had connected civilizations for millennia lay in ruins. Entire sectors had gone dark, their communication networks destroyed by human raiders who struck without warning and vanished like ghosts. Captain William Turner commanded the HMS Vengeance, leading a group of human ships that had become legend throughout Council space. They called them Turner's Wolves, a pack of damaged vessels crewed by survivors from destroyed colonies, bound together by grief and an unquenchable thirst for revenge. Turner studied the holographic display showing their next target: a massive supply convoy carrying food and medical supplies to 3 alien worlds. The convoy was protected by 200 warships, a force that should have been more than enough to destroy Turner's small fleet of 12 vessels. Under normal circumstances, attacking such a force would have been suicide. But these were not normal circumstances, and Turner was no longer the academy instructor he had been before the war. The gentle teacher who had once helped alien students understand human military history was gone, replaced by something harder and infinitely more dangerous. "Remember," Turner told his captains over the secure communication channel, "we're not here to fight fair. We're here to make them pay." His ships moved through the darkness between stars, using steroid fields and gas clouds to hide their approach until they were close enough to strike. The attack lasted exactly 18 minutes. Turner's ships hit the convoy from 6 different directions at once, targeting the supply vessels rather than the warships protecting them. By the time the alien commanders realized what was happening, half their cargo ships were burning wrecks drifting in space. The wolves vanished back into the darkness, leaving behind a fleet of warships with nothing left to protect. 3 worlds would go hungry because Turner had decided they should pay for their leaders' choices. Similar attacks happened across the galaxy every day. Human raiders struck supply lines, destroyed communication relays, and crippled the infrastructure that held alien civilization together. They fought a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, not for territory or resources, but for the simple purpose of making their enemies suffer. But humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or their soldiers. It was Dr. Helen Foster, a woman who had once studied stars to help navigate trade routes between worlds. The war had changed her just as it had changed Turner and countless others. Now she studied stars for a very different purpose. Deep in the galactic core, hidden in a nebula that made detection impossible, Foster worked on Project Prometheus. The research station was built from the wreckage of destroyed alien ships and powered by technology stolen from a dozen different species. Foster's team of scientists included experts from every field of human knowledge, all united by a single goal: to create a weapon that would end the war forever. "The calculations are complete," Foster reported to Admiral Clark during one of their rare communications. "We can destabilize any star in the galaxy remotely. The process takes approximately 72 hours from initiation to complete stellar collapse." Clark felt a chill run down her spine. She had ordered Foster to develop new weapons, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. "Helen, are you talking about destroying entire solar systems?" "Yes," Foster replied simply. "Every world, every moon, every space station. Complete annihilation. No survivors, no refugees, no possibility of rebuilding. We can erase entire civilizations from existence. The test came when the Hegemony Trade Consortium made a fatal mistake. They were the ones who had offered the galaxy their advanced technology in exchange for humanity's destruction. Now they made the error of sending their entire fleet to attack the human colony of New Terra, thinking that overwhelming force would finally break human resistance. Instead of defending New Terra, Admiral Clark made a choice that would be remembered forever. She authorized Foster to target the Hegemony's home system, a cluster of 6 worlds that housed over 60 billion alien lives. The Hegemony fleet was still celebrating their victory over New Terra when their home star began to change. At first it was just a slight increase in radiation. Then the star's color started shifting from yellow to orange to red. Within hours, it was clear that something catastrophic was happening. Clark's message was broadcast across every inhabited world in the galaxy. You wanted to see what happens when humanity faces extinction. Now you will learn why we were the only species you should have been afraid of. This is not conquest, this is justice. The Hegemony system died in a blast of light visible from halfway across the galaxy. 60 billion lives ended in an instant, along with their revolutionary technology and their ancient civilization. The trade consortium that had orchestrated humanity's betrayal was reduced to ash and memory. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Every alien leader who had voted for humanity's destruction now understood the terrible mistake they had made. Humanity possessed the power to destroy stars themselves, and they had proven their willingness to use it. Panic spread through the galaxy as alien worlds evacuated their populations, not knowing which star would be targeted next. The species that had once dismissed humans as useful servants now lived in constant terror of the day their own sun might begin to die. The reckoning had begun, and the galaxy was learning that some prices are too terrible to pay. The surrender broadcasts began 3 days after the Hegemony system became a burning grave. They came from every major world, every space station, every government that had participated in humanity's betrayal. The messages were all the same: desperate pleas for mercy from species that had once voted unanimously for human extinction. Admiral Elizabeth Clark stood in what had once been the Galactic Council chambers, now renamed Unity Hall under human authority. The massive room that had witnessed humanity's betrayal now served as the center of their new empire. Around her, alien delegates knelt on the polished floor, their proud heads bowed in submission. The transformation had been swift and absolute. Human ships now patrolled the skies of 1,000 worlds that had once belonged to others. Human governors administered planets whose original inhabitants watched fearfully from their windows. The galaxy had a new master, forged in the fires of betrayal and tempered by the blood of trillions. Captain James Morrison, who had witnessed the original vote that condemned humanity, now served as the primary liaison between human authorities and the surviving alien populations. The gentle diplomat he had once been was gone, replaced by a man who had learned that mercy was a luxury the galaxy had forfeited through its choices. The terms are simple, Morrison announced to the assembled representatives. Complete disarmament of all military forces. Surrender of all advanced technology. Payment of war reparations equivalent to the reconstruction costs of every human world you destroyed. His voice carried no emotion, no hint of the friendship that had once existed between humans and these species. General Marcus Webb, formerly a colonial administrator on a peaceful farming world, now governed the former Arcturian capital. The irony was not lost on him. The same species that had been among the first to vote for humanity's expulsion now lived under his absolute authority. Webb had lost his wife and children when the Arcturians bombed his colony. He ruled their worlds with the cold efficiency of a man who had nothing left to lose. Lieutenant David Hayes, who had once simply reported communications on Admiral Clark's bridge, now coordinated the massive effort to rebuild galactic civilization under human oversight. Every trade route, every communication network, every aspect of interstellar commerce now flowed through human-controlled systems. The aliens discovered that their new masters were nothing like their old leaders. Humans did not govern through committee or endless debate. They made decisions quickly and enforced them absolutely. Worlds that had taken decades to resolve simple disputes under the old council now found problems solved within days under human administration. But it was not a gentle rule. The galaxy paid for its betrayal every single day. On the world of Centauri Prime, the population lived under strict rationing while their agricultural output was shipped to rebuild human colonies. The Centaurians had once been among the galaxy's wealthiest species, their trade empire spanning dozens of systems. Now they worked in their own fields under human supervision, their grand cities reduced to labor camps. You celebrated when you voted to destroy us, Governor Sarah Collins told the former Centaurian leadership during their weekly report. Now you will work to rebuild what your actions destroyed. Consider it a privilege that you are allowed to live at all. The vegan colonies, whose rebellion humans had once helped suppress, found themselves facing a very different kind of suppression. Their entire military caste was disbanded, their weapons destroyed, their proud warrior tradition reduced to historical memory. They were forbidden from carrying arms or engaging in any form of military training. Your strength was your pride, Captain Robert Sterling informed the vegan war chiefs as he collected their ceremonial weapons. Now your pride is your weakness. Learn to be grateful for human protection because without it, you are nothing. Even the peaceful species suffered. The Taotians, whose first contact with humanity had saved them from extinction, found their advanced scientific research restricted and monitored. Their laboratories were staffed with human overseers who decided which projects were permitted and which were too dangerous for aliens to pursue. Dr. Margaret Wilson, now serving as the Director of Alien Science Oversight, reviewed research proposals with the cold analytical mind that had once created biological weapons. You will study what we allow you to study, she told the Taotian Research Council. Your curiosity is no longer your own. But perhaps the most profound change was in humanity itself. The species that had once served as protectors and peacekeepers had been transformed by betrayal into something harder, colder, and infinitely more ruthless. Human children grew up learning that trust was weakness, that mercy was folly, and that strength was the only currency that mattered in a hostile universe. Admiral Clark addressed the galaxy from her new headquarters on what had once been the Council's capital world. Her words were broadcast to every inhabited system, translated into every language, heard by every species that remained. You taught us a valuable lesson, Clark said, her voice carrying across the stars. You showed us that friendship is temporary but fear is eternal. You destroyed our trust, so now you will live with our dominance. This is the new order, not the one we wanted but the one you created through your choices. The galaxy settled into its new reality under human rule. Trade flowed again but according to human priorities. Science advanced but under human guidance. Peace returned, but enforced by human strength rather than maintained through cooperation. The universe had learned the hardest lesson of all, that some mistakes cannot be undone and some prices cannot be paid. Humanity had never wanted to rule the galaxy but now they would rule it forever. The new order had begun and there would be no going back.